If I know about anything, it's the science of soup dumplings. I've measured hundreds of them for my soup dumpling index and eaten thousands. But I didn't pay much attention to their history until now. This is Nanshan, a town in northern Shanghai where everyone tells me soup dumplings began. Today it's a minor tourist attraction with a street full of dumpling restaurants. The dumplings here are old-fashioned, with thick wrappers, but they're famous. There's even a statue of Huang Mingxian, the man who they say invented the Shanghai soup dumpling in 1871. But my research shows that they may have begun much earlier, in an ancient city hundreds of miles away. The history books have led me here, to Kaifeng, in central China. Kaifeng was the capital of China 8 times. 1,000 years ago, the history books reported a plum flour bun that some call the first soup dumpling. Today, people here are crazy for soup dumplings. They call them guantangbao, filled dumplings, or even xiaolongbao, like in Shanghai. Ilo claims that the plum flour buns were the ancestor of today's soup dumplings, and they're the most famous and oldest soup dumpling shop in town. So they were my first stop. But Ilo didn't open until the 1930s, 60 years after the first Shanghai soup dumpling.
外面说那个是梅花包子，这是什么意思？
那是过去形容这个包子嘛。你看我们外面写的那个有中州膳食旗字嘛，两边提了字“中州膳食一绝”，被当时说是王楼山洞梅花包子。
对，对，
它就是像
什么包子？
就是咱们这个灌汤包，形容这个灌汤包，王楼山洞梅花包子，形状似梅花，好看嘛，好吃。
可是那个20年代，如果我们说那个150年前。
那个都是历史啊，我也不太清楚。
你也不太清楚。
那时候也有。
They couldn't tell me the history. So after visiting several other shops in vain, I finally went to Yen's, a dumpling specialist a short ride away.
Yeah, 非常忙。
天天都这样。
是吗？
啊，对，天天都这样。
哇，那我想问那个最重要的问题，是先有那个上海小笼包，还是有河南的开封的灌汤包？
这个我没有太详细的研究过，但是从就是了解过的简单历史上来看，就是河南这边的应该更久远一点，因为我记得之前历史上说过，应该从宋朝时期。这个小笼包就有了，当时它属于是宫廷的这种美食，我感觉那时候上海应该可能还不怎么发达，那时候应该是渔村那种感觉，
开封就最早的那个灌汤包店是不是第1楼？
对，开封从就是大家熟知灌汤包子来说，一直就是开封的第1楼。甚至建国以前就有，就民国时期可能就有了。建国以后应该是国有企业。开封几乎就是从事这一行的，像我母亲啊什么的，我姥姥啊，他们都是从第1楼出来的。因为开封这个配料什么的，几乎也都是从第1楼，可能自己多少有些改良，主干什么的全部都是还是第1楼为主的。
可是那个第1楼之前，第1楼是1920年，
那再往前就不太清楚了。
那再往前应该有吧，因为上海是1871年的。
对，上海因为城市后期发展的要比我们好，它应该保存的比我们多。开封这边毕竟是小城市，而且是内陆城市。
那我们可不可以这样理解，这个灌汤包是上海小笼包的那个祖辈？
应该不是。 因为一个地方人是一个地方人的口味，南方的口味和北方的口味都不一样。哎，因为毕竟主料就这么多，他做的可能就很容易比较相似。这每个地方都认为自己是最正宗的嘛，这个其实无所谓，只要好吃就行嘛，对吧？
But that wasn't enough for me, so I asked him to show me the process.
平常活的话不会活这么多工序，让它晾完以后，因为有工人，然后他们2次再摔面，就和拉面一样，就是这摔。
对，
啊，那样的话会，要不然我自己来这一上午啥都干不了了。
So this is made with high protein flour, or what we would usually call bread flour, and just water. There's nothing else added to it. So this is what's called a dead dough, as opposed to a leavened dough or a fermented or a risen dough. What he's doing is developing the gluten in the dough. The gluten is like the muscle of the dough. In Chinese, it's called mianjing. What he's doing is tearing it all now, so that afterwards they'll be able to basically realign the gluten, pulling it and stretching it and slapping it. That's going to make for a very strong dough.
这是饺里头有姜末。
So you can see he's using quite a fatty ground pork from the back leg. And then he's got his soy sauce and his sesame oil and his white pepper and some salt. And he said that it's not really a complicated recipe, and you can search online and find it, but the proportions are what makes one chop different than the other.
要搅到胳膊搅不动为止。
那为什么用一个方向呢？
你如果正着也搅，翻着也搅，就泄了，然后这个水就进不去了，然后包子出来的就不是灌汤包了。一开始上劲比较重要，加水一点一点的加。
So for me, this is the step right here that shows that guantangbao are older than Shanghai xiaolongbao. This technique right here, this is a really old technique. It's just adding water directly to a seasoned meat filling and then mixing it in very slowly until the water kind of gets totally absorbed. But it's something that we absolutely wouldn't see in Shanghai. In Shanghai, they use an aspic, a kind of jelly that they've already made from pork skin, and they would make it into a hard, cooled aspic and grind it into the meat. So this is totally different. This is a totally different technique.
辛苦了，太热了。皮是透亮的，然后能看到包子里面一半都是汤。灌汤包其实就是这一道工序过来的。
So now he's adding some of the sesame oil into the filling. Another thing that we definitely wouldn't see in Shanghai. See how much sesame oil goes into this. In Shanghai, we don't use sesame oil at all. This is definitely an earlier technique, something that could have been invented 1,000 years ago. So what she's doing now is a process where they call shuai mian, which is developing. You're just basically beating the hell out of the dough to develop the gluten and then align the gluten so that when they pull it, it's not just going to tear. It's going to pull and stretch, and that's going to make the dough even stronger. This next part isn't super different from what we see in Shanghai. They're taking the filling and then putting it into the dumpling wrapper and then making the pleats and putting it in the steamer basket where it's going to get steamed. What is so different is that the filling is so liquidy. The filling is such a slurry. It has a lot of water in it. And what's going to happen when these get steamed is that water is going to come out of the meat and then mix with the seasonings that are in the meat and turn into a kind of soup. But if you really want to figure out how a soup dumpling is, you gotta take it apart. So we look at the little meatball. Interestingly, the meatball still has the pleats. It still shows like the 18 or 20 pleats that the dumpling has, even though the slurry was really thin. Some people in Shanghai say is the mark of a good dumpling. I didn't know that you could get all of these pleat impressions on a slurry that was so liquidy. You can see the The meatball is really fatty. This is the other thing, like a soup dumpling in Shanghai, the filling would be kind of like a meatball, a bit round. And this is flat, like a hockey puck. It's so strong. Quite strongly flavored. Really strong with the sesame oil, with the soy sauce, with the salt. This is definitely a Henan style, Central China, northern Central China flavor. Really strong flavor, salty. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitely not a Shanghai style. This is not the one that I'm used to. I don't know if I could eat a whole basket of these, but you know, it's pretty good.
This trip didn't solve the question of which came first, Kaifeng or Shanghai, but it did prove that they come from different lineages with different kitchen techniques. What I'm left with is that soup dumplings are not just a Shanghai or even an Eastern Chinese snack. Shanghai might have the statue, and it might get all the glory, but then how to explain Kaifeng, a city 500 kilometers away with a soup dumpling culture of its own? The mystery continues.